Mga mahal kong kababayan, ako po si Faisal Mangondato ay nagpapasalamat sa pagkakataon at panahon na binigay po ninyo na may ipakilala ko ang aking sarili at may pahayag ang aking mga hangarin para sa ating inang bayan. Simula na po ngayong araw na ito, gaya ng aking Vice Presidente na si Attorney Carlos Serapio ay hihimahin at ipapaliwanag sa Comelec time ko ang transition platform at program of action ng aming partido ng Katipunan ng Kamalayang Kayumanggi. Inaanyayahan po namin na sundan po ninyo ang 13 episodes sa bawat puntos nito. Salamat at mabuhay sa isang pag-ibig sa Diyos at sa ating bayan. Marami pong salamat.
Transition platform and program of action. Situational analysis and political reading.
The nation is in a state of moral convolution.
Di ba't ang sarap maging malaya? Makakagala ka kung kailan mo gusto. Makakapag-surf ng mga bagong ideya. Sky's the limit, ika nga. Pero sa totoo lang, malaya na nga ba talaga tayo? O nagpapalit-palit lang na mukha yung mananakop? Dahil ang pagiging malaya ay hindi lang nakikita sa kakayahan mong magreklamo ng hindi nakukulong, sa kapasidad mong makuha ang bago o makasakay sa uso. Ang tunay na paglaya ay nasa pagkakaroon ng malawak na kamalayan, sa kakayahang umunlad ng hindi naman nalulumpo sa kakatrabaho, sa kakayahan mong makasabay pagdating sa oportunidad. Be all you can be ayon sa mga kano. Dahil kung sila ay may American dream, tayo dapat meron din. Pero bakit parang ang pag-unlad sa atin ang hirap matamasa? At kung madali, bakit parang nakalaan lang sa iilan? Saan nga ba nadiskaril ang dapat sana ay tuluyan nating paglaya? Yung sama-sama. Kung tutuusin, nagkaroon naman tayo ng magandang simula. Nang umigpaw ang kamalayang Pinoy. Nagising tayo sa katotohanang meron tayong iisang lahi, iisang bayan, na tayo ay Pilipino at atin ang Pilipinas. Yun nga lang, mula doon, iba-iba na ang naging diskarte. Nagsasama-sama lang muli tayo, nagkakaisa ng damdamin, pag may kalaban. Sa hinaba-haba ng kasaysayan, pagkatapos maitawid ang ipinaglalaban, kanya-kanya na muli ng pakikipag-unahan, kanya-kanyang pag-aabuso sa napanalunan, simula lider hanggang ordinaryong mamamayan. Sari-sariling diskarte sa pagyaman, walang pakialam kung may matapakan. Para bang masaya pa sa ugaling gulangan, at talo-talo na pag di na mapakinabangan. Paano nga ba natin nasisikmura ang magpakapusog sa ambisyon habang milyong-milyon ng gutom? Ang manira imbis na bumuo. At kung may nagawa man, bitin. Paulit-ulit na lang ba? Ang nakasanayan sa politika, yun at yun din. Hibang, di ba? May tawag dyan, political insanity.
Pahintulutan nawa na may bahagi ang isang artikulo sa Philippine Star ni Cito Beltran.
Sadly, we are once again in that season of madness, and so many well-meaning individuals are searching the land for prophets and wise men who could impart wisdom and lessons on how to choose a leader and who to vote for. Not too long ago, I was reading from the book of Samuel, an Old Testament prophet who was on speaking terms with God literally. That was in a time when God had his chosen people, walked and talked to them, fought and provided for them and protected them from their enemies. Israelites were afraid of communing with God or hearing his voice. much less experiencing his presence, and at the same time resented the God-appointed leadership role of corrupt priests or righteous prophets. Instead, they wanted what their enemies had. They wanted a king of their own. How stupid is that? There you are with God the Almighty, but instead you want an inferior version of a leader. In fact, Samuel the prophet went out of his way to explain what kings do to their subjects and the cost that comes with being subjugated by fleshly royalty. But the Israelites insisted on having a king instead of God. I don't think they even realized how offensive that choice was to God. And right now, that is what we are about to do as well. We turn to man instead of God. As I considered the invitation and what I had just read from the Bible, it brought me back to a column I had written many elections back, where I suggested that people may elect candidates from the vice president down to barangay captain, but when it comes to the president of the Philippines, I believe that it is singularly the decision of God on who is elected. In that column, I pointed out that every president beginning with Ferdinand E. Marcos, Cory Aquino, Fidel Ramos, Arap Estrada, Gloria Arroyo, Noynoy Aquino and Rodrigo Duterte, individually had a God-given role to play and a social issue to address. FM stopped the communists from taking over the Philippines during a time that communists took over Southeast Asia. Cory Aquino provided the moral ascendancy and faith-based leadership that resulted in a bloodless people's revolution. Fidel Ramos brought a work ethic and inspiration to get the economy back on its feet. Arap Estrada served as the reminder and hope for the poor who had been forgotten by politicians and economists. Gloria was in one part good for the economy but also a punishment for those who manipulated and orchestrated the regime change against Arap. Noynoy Aquino was placed to restore decency in government, and economic improvement, and Rodrigo Duterte, in spite of himself, has changed our drug-crazed landscape, where women no longer felt safe to take taxis or go out at night, and as the president we needed to impose all of the COVID-19 policies and protocols. In short, God continues to pick and choose who sits in Malacañang because whether or not we deserve it, God clearly cares and loves this country and our people. Having said all that, I now find myself uninterested in being a prophet or a guide on who or how to choose a candidate or national leader. The selection process is almost always dependent on or subject to our individual expectations and moral compass or the lack of it. Instead, I would tell people not to rely on others for tips or suggestions on who to vote for. Let's do things differently if we want a different outcome. Don't go to man, go to God. I am not being hyper-spiritual or overly religious. We all go to God to pray for help, favors, provision of healing, etc. Why can't we go to God to ask for His guidance on the matter? While you are at it, go and pray for God to give us the right president as well as all the other public officials that are needed to bring true and lasting reforms for the country. A number of churches of different denominations have started including the elections in their weekly masses or services and prayer schedules. But not many of us are openly out there among family, friends and even on social media advocating and asking everyone to go to God in prayer and inviting Him daily to be our King and not just the Kingmaker. Crazy? No, we were already insane before I wrote this, remember? To quote Jesus Christ, "Let your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven."
Maraming pamilya ang nahihirapan sa araw-araw. Maraming batas ang nahihirapang ipas. Maraming proyekto ang bansa na nahihirapang mabuo. Bawat mamamayan ay nahihirapan sa kalagayan ng bansa. Pero kapag federalismo ang inangat, bawat pamilya ay aangat. Buong bansa sama-sama aangat. Faisal Mangondato for President.
Salamat sa pagmamahal mo sa bansa.